Welcome to UX Banter Season 6, where we sit down with design leaders to hear their stories, insights, and what drives their passion for creating better user experiences. This season, we are exploring everything from designing with AI in mind to building trust, navigating industry shifts, and staying inspired in a fast moving field. This podcast is presented by Galaxy UX Studio and powered by Galaxy Publics, an Inc. 5000 company. And I'm your host, Dushyant Kanungo. Welcome to the show. Hello, everyone. This is Dushyant Kanungo, your host for the UX Banter podcast. Our guest today is a leader in product design and creative strategy with over 15 years of experience blending product experience, brand, and emerging tech. As principal creative director at Eluvio, she has led award-winning projects like the NAB Product of the Year, Winning Media Wallet, formerly VP of Interaction Design at HBO. She shaped campaigns for iconic series like Game of Thrones and Westworld, integrating immersive tech like VR and AR with her 80 plus industry awards. She continues to push boundaries in digital design. Please welcome Cathy Davenport Lee.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Welcome to the show. And I mean, with that sort of interesting journey with names that people reckon with, I think only in the creative industry that you don't realize that to make a product successful or people making something very household name, the effort that go into it. And there's so many people who are behind the camera or behind the brand are working. So how your experience has been like?
Should I start from the beginning or where should I start? Yeah, I mean,
Question would be that the journey has been long. So how
yeah.
it all happened? Where did you start in your life and your career?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, I thought I was going to be a scientist. A lot of people in my family are scientists, and I kind of thought that was what I was going to do too. But I was really fascinated with design and creative stuff, and I really wanted to try it. So I majored in what was one of the first programs in digital design to exist back at the the end of the 1990s, early 2000s.
Mhm.
I majored in digital design at the University of Cincinnati many, many years ago. And it kind of, yeah, it was this brand new, like pioneering field. The vocabulary product designer like did not exist. Nobody knew what a product designer was. It hadn't been named yet. And nobody really knew what digital design was either. And so what happened is, we learned all kinds of things that today are separated out into different disciplines. So I took classes in 3D. I took classes in 2D, like animation techniques. I took classes in coding. I took classes in graphic design. I took classes in like design history and things like that, which today I still think about those classes because I remember that our teachers were struggling to communicate like the bigness of how like the world was changing. So they were drawing from how when film first became like when motion pictures first were developed, it was a similar like big change, and there's so many different techniques that had to be developed. And so they sort of took inspiration from that to explain like how the world was changing. Yeah, so it was really exciting. I think to be majoring in like in new media or digital design, those are the common terms back then, because nobody really knew what job you would get at the end of it.
I mean,
Um,
it's true. It holds true for anybody who started like 10, 15 years back. Even the UX
mm,
was a term that was commonly used. We were all going about web designer.
mm.
And then
Yeah, web designer is another one. Yeah.
yeah, the iPhone came and everybody was like, hold on a sec, we are not doing web. So it could be web and mobile, but what if I'm designing mobile app? Then it is
Mm,
interface designers. So then it converted to UI and then people wanted to do UX. But I
mm.
remember that earlier the openings would be for a webmaster. And
Yep. Yeah, and
the,
it was an everything job. You just did everything.
yeah, you are
Um,
doing your design,
yeah.
you're managing
Mhm.
the server, and so you are supposed to
Yeah,
control domain name itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was really interesting to be able to like come into my career at this time because I got to see like how mobile first design was invented and then became like part of the process everywhere. I got to see how wireframes were a thing that no one had invented yet and then it became part of a process and and suddenly like there's an entire group of people who are UX designers who are making them. I got to see how like we would use Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and Photoshop to make web designs, and it transitioned into Sketch and Figma. So it's been a really interesting journey. And
I
as far as me, oh sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I even did Coral Draw at the beginning, and when you say about the wireframing and stuff,
Mhm,
so that in 2002, when I was learning the design formally, that
mhm,
is when our tutor used to say this thing that I want to see anything that you want to create on paper first. So you sketch it out before
mhm,
down on the computer. And that was the rough ideation process that was pushed. So even if we were showing something which was brilliant, he would say, "Where is the paper?" And I
yeah,
want to see something on drawn on the paper first. And that
yeah,
process became into the brainstorming and the wireframing and all that in the later years.
mm,
And I'm talking about like something 23 years ago.
yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think yeah, what's interesting about that is I went from like graduating and not like having just a few choices as far as what to do. I remember the dot-com bubble burst had just happened, so it was very difficult to get a job when I graduated. And I was about to take a job, making flash banner ads. And I got really lucky in this place that I had read about as being one of the first sort of like boutique digital design agencies, Big Spaceship. I sent my resume to them and I like crossed all my fingers and I got that job. And it really like changed my life because I started working on immersive, like interactive experiences, which at that point in time was Flash websites, but like it brought me into this world of interactive design and like really product design and creative marketing. And I've kind of been like in that vertical ever since, even though I've gone to different areas of the industry. Um, what
So,
else? What else should I say?
oh no.
Yeah.
So the question that, the first question that I was overexcited even before the intro to ask,
Yeah.
like, how does it feel to be associated with such household names?
Mm. Yeah, I mean that like I feel so fortunate like because I dreamed of working for a big entertainment brand for a long time before I actually got my job at HBO. And it was like I had talked to some recruiters and I said, "Look, I really want to work for a big brand. I would love to work for an entertainment brand. If it's HBO, that would be awesome." And at the time they were like, "Hey, we have tons of other jobs. Like, are you interested in those?" And I was like, "No, let's do it." And they just kind of gave me this look like, "What's wrong with you?" And years went by, like 5 years went by, and I sort of didn't think it was going to happen. And then I got a call out of the blue from one of the recruiters that I had talked to 5 years ago. She said, "Hey, a job at HBO opened up. Like, do you want to come interview?" And I was like, "What? Are you kidding?" So
Sometimes power of manifestation works. Sometimes you have to define the
yeah.
trajectory that your career is going to go at. Many times you have to take these objective decisions that I want to work at this company at this level.
Mm,
And then because you have the end goal in mind, now you are making sure that you have the skills that if you deserve it. And even though it takes time to get to that place, whatever preparation is needed, you do that because you
mm,
want to be at a certain place and level. And many a times you even get more than what you ask for. Sometimes
yeah.
you will get more, better opportunities in your life and career because you are preparing for something that you realize that, okay, some part is missing and I want to cover
Yeah.
that. And I think that
Hmm.
is something similar on the lines of manifestation that has happened with HBO.
Hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think in many ways, like that was such a big moment in my life, and I knew that I already loved the idea of interactive storytelling, just like from just like the earliest moments of like falling in love with that, like in 2000 when I saw like what the people in digital design were doing. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. I get to tell like some of the most well-known stories on earth for this brand that everyone has heard of. Yeah. So that, yeah, it was really cool. And I'm always going to be grateful for like being able to step into that world. So yeah, I ended up working there for 8 years. And when I started, my team was 7 people, which is, you know, still pretty respectable. But by the time I had left, it had quadrupled in size to 28 people. And you know, we were also doing a lot of creative directions with different agencies, and we're just doing an incredible number of things.
So after working with such big names and household brands, you decided to that it was time to leave HBO and start something new?
Yeah, after I'd worked there for about 8 years, like I really felt like I wanted to focus in the tech industry, and do something that was like more primarily focused on innovative technology, because I think that's what I enjoyed most from my time at HBO. We we did all different kinds of campaigns for different titles like Game of Thrones and Silicon Valley and so forth. And some of my favorite parts of those projects were like the cool immersive technology activations that we did alongside them, the websites that we created for them, the interactive digital things that we made for them. And I just really wanted to make that more of a focal point for myself.
Right. So
Mm.
tell us about your current role. I mean, we all have come leaps and bounds from one place to another, but it's all the things that we do that define us. So what does future hold, and what is the current role and which direction you are headed?
So my current role is a principal creative director for Eluvio. And so I oversee the product design as well as the creative marketing at this like startup in the tech sector. I feel like I'm not going to do justice to explaining all of the things that our products do, but I'll try to oversimplify it so the listeners can understand like what it is we make. If so, just imagine Netflix. If it were possible to lease space on Netflix and sell your own like TV series or content, that would essentially be what our software lets you do. And again, I'm really oversimplifying it. It does a lot of things, but I think that's the easiest thing for people to understand.
Yeah, so people can definitely do a Google and figure out what done. And digital experience are always different. Before we go any further, this
Mhm.
is the time for me to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay, see what do I have in my list? Okay, your go-to pastime.
My go-to pastime, karaoke. I love karaoke.
Your favorite YouTube channel.
I love Nerd Forge. It's there's this really cool couple and this girl who has like pink and blue hair, and she just makes these like really cool projects, and it's always like really ambitious and interesting to watch.
Books or movies?
Movies.
Your favorite one.
Favorite movie? Oh my gosh. That's a really tough question.
Pick your favorite HBO show.
My favorite HBO show, I'm gonna say Game of Thrones.
All right.
It's a
Not the last season though.
not not the last season. Yeah.
That's an international sentiment. Nobody can deny that. And yeah,
Mhm.
that's fair. Favorite book.
Favorite book. Hmm. I really love science fiction, and so there's a lot of different authors in that space that I enjoy reading. But I guess I would say like I really like the I, Robot series by Isaac Asimov. Like I revisit that series like over and over again.
Okay, coffee or tea.
Coffee.
All right. The favorite snack that you can whip up anytime.
Favorite snack. I do like boba tea. I have like instant boba. I make boba tea.
Right. And what about food? Do you cook?
Um, I I cook a lot. I'm just trying to think of like my I mean, honestly, like Sorry, I have to think about this for a second. So yesterday, here's an example of something I made. Yesterday, I just made my son some musubi for his lunch, which, like, if people who are listening don't know what musubi is, it's like you open a can of Spam and you slice it up and then fry it and put it on a little piece of rice and then pack it up. So
Uh,
that's like an example of something I would cook.
you are a morning or evening person?
Morning.
Definitely. I mean, that comes with parenting, isn't it?
Mhm.
Your favorite holiday destination?
Holiday destination, home. I like to chill out at home.
Indoor aisle seat.
I'll see.
All right. But generally, you're not going anywhere. You want to chill at home, cook some food, enjoy family time,
Yeah.
um, watch some telly, and I think
Hmm.
that happens because the creative burst and the exposure that we generally get in our careers, sometimes it becomes way too, um, it runs
Hmm.
into sensory overload. And I believe that that is why the most of the designers that I talk to, they all say, either this is the age that is approaching, that once you are in your 40s, that don't want to
Hmm.
do anything, but generally
Hmm.
like the creative overload, and that comes to you, the
Hmm.
sensory work up that happens. It comes to a point that when you have to protect your creativity, and that can
Yeah,
easily,
that's true.
if,
Mm.
if you are putting a shield in front of you saying that, wait, I need some time, because
Hmm.
that is what making me recharge my batteries. All right. So while we are here with all that awards, the creative success and recognition when it comes, how
Hmm.
does it feel?
I think, it's a very interesting thing when you talk about recognition, because I do think that as and in general, like as a group of people or like as an industry, there's such an emphasis on those awards and on like specific awards, and you feel like if you don't have one, like you're nobody. Like, but that really isn't true. And it also has a lot to do with like, you know, getting an award has a lot to do with like if you work for a company that can afford to apply for a bunch of awards. Like that's like, so like I think it's important to like take it with, just have some perspective about what it really means to have an award or to be recognized. But I mean, but that being said, like obviously like it's so different now, like that I've had like 20 something years of working versus when I started, when nobody knew me and like I hadn't done anything yet and I hadn't sort of like proved what I could do yet. And I think that it does like bring a sense of like peace that you don't have when you start, because you're always, or I mean maybe this is just me. I think like when you first start, you're constantly like you constantly have all this insecurity about yourself and like your abilities and stuff. And I think like now I kind of feel like I know sometimes I have an off day or a day where like I don't know like the right answer or whatever, but I also know that that's not like indicative of whether or not I will figure out the answer or like, in general, like how the project's gonna go.
This is a very important underlying or undercurrents to this question, or what you
Mhm.
just answered, is the validation that
Mhm.
every creative seeks. Now, I don't know if it is something that they are seeking because that what they were doing is for the clients, but they also
Mhm.
want their art and skill to be appreciated. And be it a movie person, be it a web designer, they are
Mhm.
something, and they are in the business where they have to come up with the new ideas and do and at the same time, if you are an architect, if you are say a painter, musician, they all strive for that. But
Mhm.
as you also rightfully mentioned that it takes a lot of money to apply for those awards, and then
Mhm.
most of the time the work that we do, we are not supposed to submit in our names because of the client's restrictions and NDAs
Right.
mobile. So do you think it is overrated, or do you think it is something that people should, consider more, or do you think there is a sort of a hype which is cannot be justified or
Mhm.
at certain level?
I mean, that's a interesting question. I'm not sure if I have a strong yes or no, but I do think that a lot of the reason that when you're in creative field you crave validation is because their society is so invested in telling you that being a creative is like not as good as being a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. Like you get a lot of messages like that you're like that you're doing something that's less than, which is, it's really, again, at this point, after having done this for a long time, it seems really silly that anyone would ever think that. But I think it does kind of shape that feeling of like needing to seek validation.
And yeah, this is one of those conversations which is not the the direct conversation or some things that people
Mm.
don't talk about more often. But thankfully, I had somebody who knows how to be on the other side where like 99% of the creatives don't visit. So I
Hmm.
think you were the right person to answer that. But you also rightfully said that it's worth it with every effort that you make. And because of the path that we have chosen, it is sort of becomes questionable every 5 years. New technology comes and suddenly they say that, oh, you will be out of the job, and then we still survive. And
Yeah. It's very true. It's happening right now. Yeah. Mm.
so last time when we were talking, you were of the same opinion about the change of tech and the AI integrated
Yeah.
things. So
Yeah,
how
I mean, like we talked about this a lot the last time we spoke, but like it's a really big thing that's happening in our industry, the advent of AI and having LLMs be available for anyone to use whatever, and do whatever they want with. And it definitely raises a lot of questions. Like I think in some ways there are like some really great possibilities for using it for good purposes to like scale your content or like discover the cure for disease or something like that. But I think there's also a lot of potential for things to go wrong, in terms of like people being able to commit fraud very, very easily. People using the likenesses of other human beings in a way that doesn't seem ethically appropriate, or like their style or something like that. So I'm very concerned about like how the regulation of AI is going to shape. But I also think, like one of my main thoughts about this though is that I think that creative people feel like this is something that's happening to us, or like it's like this big scary thing and we just have to like hang in there. Like, but it's very, I feel like that's the wrong way to look at it. Like I think that especially when it concerns like how is creative work going to be made moving forward, like we're the ones who need to say something. Like if we want to shape how this evolves, you can't really just sit in your little box and like shake and be scared. Like you have to kind of really look at it and try it and see like what is or isn't working, because I do think that there's some things that seem really promising, but there's a lot of over exaggeration about what it can do, because the space is just flooded with advertisers and influencers and stuff. So I think that creative people really need to investigate the technology themselves and try things and be part of the conversation. I think that's really important.
So over the last 3 months, or 4 months, we have bought about 8, 9 subscription of different tools. And
Yeah.
of it, they was just saying it is beta. And even the demos that we saw on YouTube, that there's all full products, which is not
Mm,
available to public yet. So it begs to question that if you are selling me something on beta on a monthly subscription, which is not yet,
mm,
you are selling me a product which is just maybe a video edit of something that is not actually out there. So how does that legalizes in the context? And secondly, what you're doing with the data, how you're getting and gathering the data and executing.
yeah.
Now, to
Yeah.
do a fun story about what happened in India.
Oh,
So
okay.
this guy is a movie producer in the state of Karnataka. So
Hmm.
he and a friend of his, or just two people, made a movie using AI. And the
Hmm.
movie was titled Love You. It's an action musical love story with all the spices that you have. And it is full AI. All the characters are AI, the plot line, the music, the lyrics, the dialogues, audio, voice,
Wow.
everything. And it's a about 90-minute movie. And they approached the censor boards and they got it approved because it is your regular film for them. And they finally found a date that this date we are going to release. And before the window could be finalized, now
Mhm.
Google VO3 has come, which essentially, even whatever they did in say 6 months' time, now they can do it in like a month, even with better quality and less softwares. Just one software can do all that. So I'm saying that by the time they decided, okay, we need to make an AI movie, and by the time it releases, the technology shifted.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mhm.
Even so, you can't even decide to rely on the tech at the moment. The
Yeah.
25 I think is the moving year where you don't know that what is
Mhm.
going to stick. Everybody is just throwing in ideas, and we are still not sure that what is the end, or what is the point when the government says stop, this is it. But I think
Mm.
it is still too late. I can install any LLM on my machine, and you can run local servers. You don't have to rely on cloud, and it's just
Yeah, it's
that
really it seems like it may be not possible to regulate at this point because it's so widespread everywhere. Yeah, I worry about that too. I've noticed what you said too about like the technology updates so quickly that by the time you think of what you want to say about it, like things have changed again and you have to like change what you're trying. You have to like redo whatever the experiment was that you were doing and check if it's still the same thing or not. Yeah,
so
I
it's also leading to the problems on
mhm,
the budgetary end, that how much should I charge for something? Is my time valuable, or should I invest in computers? Should I hire more people? And how much
mhm,
money do I quote to the customer? Because the tool I'm using, it requires money, and then there is another tool who is doing it for free. And people would assume that you have a magic wand which just does things like that. So they don't want to pay. And it's a mess, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. I don't know if you noticed this, but like when just the things that I've already subscribed to, like Midjourney, and Firefly and stuff, I've noticed that they've changed their pricing model like several times since I first joined. And now there's all these like, especially Midjourney, there's all these tiers, and like I'm no like for some reason like I'm on the lowest tier now, and like there used to not be tiers. Yeah, and then I see a lot of places are like moving to credits as well. It's like, oh, you have so many credits, and I'm like, I pay for Adobe Creative Suite. It's really expensive. Like, I kind of expect all of the stuff to be included. So like, like I do, financially I understand what's happening. Like it's very expensive for these companies to offer this, so they have to charge more money. But I do think it's, that's a really interesting thing that I see as well as like a limiting factor, because people aren't going to keep paying for more and more subscriptions. So I think that's going to create some friction at like in some places. Yeah.
At the same time, isn't the other side of tech that people don't think, which is happening, which is the amount of energy which is utilized, the amount
Also that. Yeah.
they say
Hmm.
that even if a simple search that you're doing, it costs like 2 buckets of water or something. And
Yeah.
in when you think about the regulations, I think it is going to drive from that point, that do we even supply more electricity through that power plant to the server farm? And
Yeah.
or do we need
Yeah,
to
I mean that's there's a whole environmental implication as well, which like I feel like they're going to come up with a solution to this because I feel like I saw that with like the old school Bitcoin farming, there
yeah.
was like the same kind of issue. And then they switched to, I'm probably gonna get this phrase wrong, but it's like a lottery system or something. Instead of finding a hash, instead of computing a hash, it has a different way of solving how that happens, so it's like a lot less energy is being expended. So I have hope that like it will be figured out, but right now it's not. So it does seem very, like it seems very strange that we're all like the entire world is glomming on to this at once, and again that's not being regulated.
There are very few times in our career that that has happened. I mean, when I started
Mhm.
learning computers in 99, the internet wasn't a commonplace thing. You have to go to a cyber cafe, and
Mm. Oh
and
yeah, yeah, I remember those.
you are getting like that 16 to 32 kbps connection, and per hour. it was, well, Indian currency, it was 120 rupees, which was more than 5 meals that I could have eaten. 6 meals,
Mm,
like 20 rupees that I could have a lunch or a dinner. And I was
mm,
120 rupees for an hour of the internet. And that was in 99. And
mm,
then the omnipotence of the internet, the entire mobile evolution to the smartphones, to just not imagining a life without it. And now AI has come at the time, which is not just an upgrade, it's a shift. So you are just moving away from how things were working to the next chapter. And it is very exciting to have the front seat of it all.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think having the perspective of like being around in the beginning, like make it, it doesn't make the things that are scary about this less scary per se, but this isn't the first time I've seen the entire world change in this industry.
In- in-
And sometimes
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting question. Wait, you
yeah.
just said that it is not the first time, but has it
Mhm.
ever happened that you felt a little bit overwhelmed by the technical changes? And if it has
Mhm.
happened, how many times?
Well, I mean, what I was thinking about, like how I was comparing this in my head is like, it really reminds me of like the birth of the digital industry to begin with, right? Like if you think about how at the time, like, and when I say like the birth, I'm not talking about when the internet was born. I'm talking like the late '90s when it started to become like a thing that everybody was trying to get into. You see a lot of the same phenomenon, right? You see a billion startups rising and falling. You're getting funding like crazy. It's just being thrown around like candy. Like you see all these startups. One minute they're in existence, the next minute they've gone under. One minute there's this brand new technology that's like the pinnacle of everything, the next minute it's irrelevant. It reminds me a lot of that point in time. For example, like I remember interning at this company that sold electronic textbooks, which in 1999 was like people thought that was like a crazy thing to do, and it went under because there was no market. But like now, 20 something years later, like it's the paper textbooks that are in trouble, like not the electronic ones. So yeah, so I think there's a lot of parallels in that terms. And also like you saw like in the late 90s a bunch of new job titles like web designer and and all of those like things associated with being in digital design. And it's the same thing now. Like you see like prompt engineering and like just a lot of different job titles that arise around having expertise in using AI or engineering AI. So I think that it reminds me a lot of that. It's like the whole world was changing, and it seemed almost like it seemed so unsettling to people. And I think like even like people that I knew or like were related to found it a little unsettling that I was like majoring in something that was so untested. So when I think about it that way, I'm like, that was a really crazy time. And I was definitely in a different position in life where like I think it was more primed to feel like excited about the possibilities. And I was definitely not thinking about, all of the things that could go wrong with like internet being a thing, or digital design being a thing. And I think now I have like more, I have more context and more experience. But like yeah, so like I said, it's like to me, it isn't the first time the entire world has changed around technology. And so I know, I guess what I feel like I know is that it's going to feel like it's just like wave after wave of insanity and it's like really unsettling, but it was like that before and it settled for for at least for a little while.
And
um
then we are back
yeah,
at it.
yeah, so I feel like at some point like 20 years from now there's going to be a point at which all of this feels normal and it doesn't feel like we're grappling with these like really big questions because there will have been answers figured out for it.
Some things
um
are happening and they are pretty matured, right? I mean, first up,
yeah.
the robots do have the agility now. We have seen kickboxing robots and doing all sort
Mm,
of that at one end. And second end, we have the AI, the brain part that you can actually put into those. And now you have the humanoid ones that can actually walk around. Yes, technology cost is way higher, but it is going to come down, right? So from
Mhm.
everything from, say, having an army of soldiers to go into the
Mm.
or to domestic helps. I mean, they are going to be omnipotent in some time. I don't
Mhm.
think that future that we always saw in science fiction of iRobot is very far away.
Mhm.
But then the humans have to think really hard about it. But before
Yeah.
going that far, I'm taking a step back and I'm asking, in
Yeah.
your day-to-day operations, how much AI leverage that you are taking right now, or is there anything that you are putting on roadmap?
Yeah. So I don't like I can't really talk specifically about what we're developing. But I will say that it's a there's a central aspect of using AI in a lot of our different core applications. So yeah, I mean, we're actively like thinking about how does the UI and UX work in this in such and such situation. But yeah, I don't want to get too specific. Yeah.
All right. So you
Yeah.
also have another podcast that you run on. Do you want to talk more about this?
I discovered it's really interesting. Like in my like fourth decade on this planet, I've really discovered that I love to write and like talk and think about the like the big picture. Like, and I write about all kinds of things. Like I write about technology, but I also write about like how to how to break through when you're like a young creative person trying to form your career. And I write and talk about a lot of like typical problems I think that creative people face. So yes, I have a podcast that is devoted to that. It's very tiny. It's a very very small
Yeah.
following, but yeah, it's just something I've discovered that I just like really enjoy like contributing something at this
What's his
point in
name?
my life. Oh, it's the Creative Lead Playbook.
Creative Lead Playbook is
Hmm.
the podcast. So anybody who is subscribing here, I request highly and that you follow there. The link will be in the description along with the LinkedIn profile of Cathy attached there as well. And I hope that you are all going to find it as useful as this podcast or even more. So, Kathy, with that, what is the advice that you would give to young people who are just following into the industry or want to follow your footsteps?
Mm. I think that it's really important to work on developing how you think and what you feel about the things that you're doing, and to not rely so heavily on what everyone else is doing or what everyone else is thinking, or how they may or may not be judging you for being a creative person. We like I mean, I'm going to make a huge generalization that I think that when you decide to become a creative or an artist or something, it's sort of something that chooses you. You don't choose it. And you like it's a path that is never the same, and you can't let other people tell you the right way to do it necessarily. um so I guess that's what I would say.
Well, that actually holds a lot of value. That path that you choose, where you want to be, it has to be unique. You cannot just say that somebody else has done something and I should be doing it. But other than that, I think the manifestation, the preparing for the job that you want, not the job that you have, not
Hmm.
just messing up, but talking about it, reading about it is the
Mm.
way ahead. And everybody has their own battles to fight, and especially in the creators, that we have to be ready for the future. That prediction, the art of prediction, I think it becomes very critical. So
Mm.
thank you, Kathy, for joining us today in our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
And with that, everybody, we are going to end this episode here and stay tuned. We'll be back with another episode soon with the season 6 of the UX Expander podcast. Have a nice day ahead. Bye.